Emma sat at her kitchen table, staring at the list of names she had written on a notepad. It had been nearly 5 years since the whole family was together in one room. Pride and past misunderstandings had kept them apart for far too long. But something inside her felt it was time to change that. With a deep breath, she began making the calls, inviting each family member to a dinner at her home the following Saturday. Some were surprised, others hesitant, but one by one they all agreed. Emma felt a mix of relief and anxiety. She wondered if this dinner would be a step toward healing or just reopen old wounds. Either way, the date was set, and there was no turning back now. The evening of the dinner arrived, and Emma's house filled with the aroma of home-cooked food and the low hum of cautious greetings. As each family member stepped through the door, old habits resurfaced: forced smiles, polite small talk, and nervous glances. Beneath the surface, unresolved tension simmered. Emma's brother David barely made eye contact with their mother after years of silent resentment. Their Aunt Carol exchanged stiff hugs with her sister, still bitter over a long-forgotten argument. Even the younger cousins sensed the unspoken unease. Despite the warmth of the setting, a fragile atmosphere hung over the gathering, as if everyone was waiting for the moment something would crack. Emma watched it all quietly, praying that the night would somehow lead to a breakthrough. Just as the family settled around the table, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Confused, Emma excused herself and opened the door to find a man in his early 30s, holding a small envelope. He introduced himself as Mark, claiming to be their cousin, someone no one had ever heard of. The room fell silent as Emma led him, the air thick with surprise and suspicion. Mark explained that he had recently discovered their family through a series of letters and documents left by his late mother. He had come, unsure of his welcome, but hopeful to connect. The family exchanged wary glances, unsure what to believe. Emma, trusting her instincts, invited him to stay, unaware that his arrival would soon uncover long-buried secrets none of them were prepared for. Dinner resumed, but the atmosphere had shifted. Between bites of food, questions started to flow, careful at first, then more direct. Mark shared bits of his mother's story, mentioning names and places that sent shivers down spines. Slowly, the puzzle pieces began to fit, revealing connections no one had expected. Then came the moment of reckoning. Mark placed the envelope on the table and gently pushed it toward Emma's father. Inside were letters confirming a hidden chapter of the family's history, a relationship long denied, and a child kept secret. Tension turned to disbelief and emotions erupted. Voices rose, tears fell, and the family confronted truths they had never imagined. By the time dessert was served, nothing about the evening felt the same. The weight of honesty was heavy, but it also cracked open the door to real healing. Silence settled over the room after the shocking revelation. All eyes turned to Emma's father, who sat frozen, staring at the letters on the table. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice trembling with guilt and sadness. He confessed that many years ago, before he met Emma's mother, he had a brief relationship that ended abruptly. He had never known a child came from it, or at least he had convinced himself not to ask questions. His eyes filled with tears as he looked at Mark, acknowledging him as his son. The room was thick with emotion, anger, confusion, and a deep, aching sadness. Yet beneath it all there was a fragile thread of relief, as if the truth, though painful, was a burden finally laid down. Emma reached out to hold her father's hand, signaling that somehow they would face this together. After the storm of confessions and emotions, the room grew quiet. People sat in thoughtful silence, processing everything that had unfolded. Slowly, small acts of grace began to emerge. David, who had always held on to resentment toward their father, was the first to break the ice. He stood up, walked over to Mark, and shook his hand firmly, welcoming him as part of the family. Aunt Carol, wiping tears from her eyes, apologized to her sister for years of coldness and bitterness. Emma watched with quiet hope as others followed, exchanging words of understanding and tentative smiles. The path to healing was not instant, but the walls of pride and pain were beginning to crumble. For the first time in years, the family saw the possibility of true reconciliation shining through the cracks. As the evening wore on, something remarkable began to happen. The tension that had once filled the room gave way to laughter and real conversation. Stories from the past were shared, and Mark, once a stranger, started to feel like he belonged. Emma noticed her father and Mark deep in conversation, bridging the gap of lost years with sincerity and a growing sense of connection. The younger cousins, curious and open-hearted, eagerly welcomed their new relative, asking questions and sharing jokes. What had started as a dinner clouded with old wounds was transforming into a celebration of new beginnings. The family, once divided by silence and secrets, was weaving a stronger, more honest bond. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt true hope that their family story was turning a new, brighter page. As the night came to a close, the family lingered, reluctant to let the moment end. Hugs were exchanged, and promises were made to meet again soon, this time without waiting for years or for crises to bring them together. Emma watched with quiet satisfaction as her family left one by one, their faces lighter and their hearts a little more open. Mark stayed behind to help clean up. Though there were still wounds to heal and challenges ahead, the dinner had sparked something powerful, a renewed commitment to family, built on truth, forgiveness, and love. As Emma turned off the lights and stood in the quiet of her home, she smiled, knowing that this dinner had truly changed everything, and that their future now held the promise of deeper connection and hope. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear the next part, or discover more powerful family stories like this, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We share true, emotional stories that inspire, heal, and bring families closer together. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful content that touches hearts and changes lives. Stay tuned for the next chapter and many more heartfelt stories coming soon. Thank you for watching and being part of our growing community.